All right, viewers, before we went to break, I did tell you that I'm not seeing Richard Young as yet, but I'm happy to say that he walked in here as soon as I said that. So, that means he's, as we say in Guyana, he can live long. Of course, thank you very much for staying tuned. If you're now joining us, you missed a really, really good conversation with a big group from the Ministry of Social Protection, and they're from the Department of Social Services, and of course, they give lots of information. So just to remind those of you who follow me on social media, the conversation will be on YouTube, if not a little later on in the day, by tomorrow, and it will also be on my Facebook page. But now we're talking about something else that is very important to Guyana also. It is my pleasure to be chatting about it with Mr. Richard Young. He is no stranger to Guyana. I think he's adopted now. We've adopted him. He's become Guyanese. This is my first time speaking with him publicly, so it is my pleasure to welcome Richard Young to Facing the Nation. Welcome, sir.
Yes, glad to be here.
All
I wanted to be here last time and we had some kind of screw up with our scheduling.
Yes.
But I was looking forward to it.
I'm happy that you're here. The first thing Richard and I are going to talk about, viewers, some of you would have read in the news, you would have seen it on some of the newscasts. Unfortunately, one of our very talented and joyful and fun persons. He's an actor and comedian, of course, Mr. Henry Rodney, no stranger to Guyana, of course. He is battling an illness. So what is happening? Sonia Noel also is no stranger to you, and it's the Sonia Noel Foundation Arts in collaboration with Guyana Fashion Week. They are hosting an event on Sunday to raise funds, medical funds, of course, for Mr. Henry Rodney. Not only Henry Rodney, but I was told today also, yes, for medical treatment for Corinne Gibson. And for those of you who don't know, she is the formerly lead hairstyle and makeup artist for the Guyana Fashion Weekend. So it's a lot going on, and Richard Young is part of the Sonia Noel family, so it really is my pleasure to be talking to him about this. Richard,
yes.
Let's talk about what's happening on Sunday.
Well, Style Mission, as its name aptly describes, is having a mission that revolves itself around style. And the mission is to give back to society, to contribute to community, to do more than just present style and celebrate style. It was conceived by Sonia some years ago, and it was annually, and then it kind of dropped off, but she's brought it back because her philanthropic bone, as it were, is kicking in, and therefore she says that she needs to constantly contribute to societal needs. So I was brought in to creatively direct it, and a lot of people don't understand that term sometimes. I had another interview, and they were not understanding, like, what is that feature or function, which is to cohere all the parts of the show to make it a production, So the production is going to feature at least 20 designers who are part of the Guyana Fashion Week brand, spearheaded by Sonia, which I am also creative director for. So this is like a precursor to Guyana Fashion Week. This year is special because of the 50th anniversary celebration of independence, and we have had a hiatus with Guyana Fashion Week, and we're coming back in November in a big way. So these are preliminary steps towards the brand, the rebranding of the event. So we are doing this one called Style Mission in aid of raising funds for both of those people you spoke of there, and I also want people to be aware that when we do these events, it's not just about the charity. It's also about empowering the youth. It's also about building creative industry. It's also about applauding these young people who are choosing to take this non-traditional path as a career.
Yes, it is indeed non-traditional. Richard, and it's interesting you mentioned that, because I still hear people asking things like, we're going to do with fashion. Guyana is not there as yet. We're going to do with makeup. Some people don't wear makeup every day. And, you hear things like that. So I'm happy that you talked about empowering.
Those are essential in strengthening creative industry. And I am a believer in the regional brand called the Caribbean Aesthetic. And I feel that we constantly have to integrate with one another, because independently the brand is not solid enough. It's not fortified enough to present itself to the world. Okay. It's presenting itself to the world as a Caribbean brand. What is peculiar and special about Guyana, because there's a South America meets Caribbean. So that's why I try to push them doing reference on your history and your biography to apply it to the garments and the textile design, because some of what we have here, the other parts of the region, they don't have, So culturally, I think it's a wonderful space to add something to the template of fashion in the world. So when these young designers come with their explorative, experimental designs, they need the response of, yes, you're going in the right direction. Yes, you're representing us in the style of Guyana. And so coming to the event is supporting youth empowerment, it's supporting creative industry building, it's supporting the persons taking non-traditional paths for their income generating. It also promotes sustainable development, which is giving chance to future generations to take new paths for careers. So it has all of that solidness in it, and that's what I bring to the table. And I believe in identity branding, and everything that we do, people will say, I wonder where that's from. That looks like it's from Guyana. It looks like it's from the Caribbean. Because a lot of times we do events and the events look like they're mimicking something else. And it's just an event that happens to be in Guyana, but looking like somewhere else. So I am constantly, so there's a visual artist who's offered her paintings. Her name is Davina Duputron, and she's going to offer it as an auction. So I like to bring all the art, performing art, graphic art, culinary art, because the identity branding is the arts.
Richard, you've been doing work in Guyana for a number of years now, and of course I'm going to want to talk about your other in other parts of the Caribbean. But in Guyana, do you find that, because you talked about this non-traditional path, do you find that Guyanese are ready to embrace and support this non-traditional path?
They are on the cusp of we are in a threshold position. So the consistency and regularity of events and endeavors that push to the fore creative people need to happen. We are just doing our small part. It's very important for Guyanese to know that Guyana Fashion Week is the second longest running event of its kind in the region. And that's formidable.
What's just the first? Sorry.
Caribbean Fashion Week.
Okay,
which is in Jamaica. Because they're running for over a decade now, and we are under a decade. And most of the other Caribbean Fashion Weeks I have been kind of involved in, so that has become my forte. Because I've worked in French Guyana, Suriname, Antigua, Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Guadeloupe, Martinique, Haiti, it goes on. And now I'm making my reach into the first world. So there's Caribbean Fashion Week Toronto, Caribbean Fashion Week Montreal that I'm involved in. And there's something called Carib Style in Florida. And there's something in New York that we call Bridging the Gap. So I'm carrying the Caribbean style to the first world because everybody is fascinated with Caribbean style and identity. And we are not so much...
We're not as fascinated with our own thing when we should be.
So it's a teaching of self-love that goes on inside of it. Even if you come to one of my trainings with the models, it's about learning to love self and learn to understand your anatomy to merchandise, not just garments, but looks, attitudes, personality. So it's like, it's creative arts, it's theater. And theater helps you feel better about yourself. That's how cultural confidence is built. So it's a lot more than what I think I sometimes hear people talking about fashion in a kind of whimsical, frivolous, flirtatious way. Yes, we do that for you to enjoy it, but there's a lot more in there. There's a lot more. The fact is that when you have a fashion event, there's a special target group that comes. A group of people who not necessarily will be seated together in another space. So that's what we offer now, the private sector, for them to employ their corporate social responsibility to this niche market of spectators, observers, onlookers. So all of that I do in my pitches when I write to governments and write to organizations. So the fashion, in order to empower the young people, you align with anti-domestic violence, you align with environmental awareness,
the things that they identify with.
Right. And so that's what we have been doing for years, and making some notches on the totem pole, but it needs to be very regular, it needs to be consistent, it needs funding, it needs private sector and governmental support, and it needs just the citizenry to appreciate self and like who we are and what we bring to the table. So all of that is what we do in the project. So that's why I always songs more exhilarated than people expect. It's just a show he doing. It's not just a show to me.
Yes, why he has to go on. I know, I have said it too, that Richard's personality is a very contagious one. Viewers, if you're now tuning in, we're talking not only about Style Mission, and again, Style Mission is what we're going to take this time around. The funds are going to be taken for medical purposes for our comedian Henry Rodney and of course Miss Corinne Gibson. But at this point, I want to talk about Richard Young.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about all of those countries, and I've known this for a fact. Viewers, I should also tell you, the first time I saw Richard, I was a little girl, of course, living in Antigua, and he was there, and he had these girls strict. No, that is not how you walk, and he was teaching them to walk and training, modeling training, and so on. So, for me, this is it's great. You have talked about working in all of those Caribbean countries and so on, and of course now you're doing stuff in Guyana. You continue to do stuff in Guyana. One of the things that the president of this country keeps promoting is national unity. I'm going to take it a little further and call it Caribbean unity. How have you dealt with challenges in terms and dealing with the different cultures and integrating? And I'm sure a few months ago I was at the Pegasus and I heard you talked about, some people would say, but how he get this, he ain't born here and stuff. How do you deal with opposition and challenges like those?
Well, that somehow, because I lived in a bubble thinking that xenophobia doesn't exist. It was this big word that starts with X and you don't necessarily feel it, because I really felt from my love of people, my study of sociology, my study of history, that we are integrated. I mean, through the arts, there is a federation of sorts among the countries that make up CARICOM, and so I thought through political and economic irregularities, they're not able to cohere. But with the arts, when you meet a fellow dancer, a model meets a model, designer meets a designer, there's a joy.
Yeah.
Before it goes to rivalry, there's a joy to find a like-minded individual in a sphere and to hear their challenges and to work out formulas and to celebrate. We feel the same way about fabric and textile and so. So I was doing that for a while, not necessarily claiming what would be called the pivotal events. That's how I had to look at it on reflection. I was doing significant events, but the ones that started becoming the pivotal events in the countries, government, private sector started giving me them to do because of my methodology. My methodology is I'm bringing expertise after 25 years of doing it at rural, urban, Northern Caribbean, Southern Caribbean, cosmopolitan countries. So I'm bringing that. But what I do is harness the best talent to execute best practice methods. So it's totally informed with the biographical composition of those people, which means it belongs to the space. So when I'm in St. Lucia, the best choreographers, the best makeup artists, when I'm here, we pull that together. So, and then I take it now, put it into a pot and call it Caribbean, because the world can only revere us and respect us if we are a Caribbean collective.
Yes.
Because we make up a few, not even 20 million. We are small in the comparison. And those spaces who have been working on style have 5 centuries of development of style and art. So we have to now look at our miscegenation, which was just born out of post-slavery situations, which is less than 2 centuries. And we have to now find similarity, acknowledge difference, and eke out and work out something that the world can appreciate us for, that we collectively, it's like what cricket has done. It is no point in being insular. So, yes, I met it. And when I met it, I remember when I got the jazz event to do in St. Lucia called Hot Couture. And they say, here is our creative director. And I had actually pitched that show the year before, and they gave it to a national. And I don't have sour grapes and things. When I went, they treated me well. They gave me a front row seat. I sat. I spoke with the person they gave, who was national, born there, living in Paris. And I was good. And then there were challenges, and they came to me, and I didn't carry on like, Blair, do I get it? No, I just went along with it, and the models knew me, and we worked. And by the 3rd year, when I got it again, somebody asked that in the press conference, and I asked the director of tourism, I must answer that question.
What did they ask exactly?
How come he who ain't born here get to do this show. I say, you know where my navel string buried? My navel string buried along the entire archipelago from the Bahamas to the Guyanas in the south. That's where I bury it, because what happens is that you have to choose to bury it. It can't just be where born. And I have worked in this space for 20 years, and every model of count would have passed through my training methods. And you're going to tell me I'm not entitled to celebrate this being the best show in the region at the time? I said no. And everybody, it was on the 7 o'clock news. And then in Antigua, I was hired as the creative consultant to the Ministry of Culture and National Festivals. That's one of my new appointments. And people are very upset by that, but the minister is very adamant that I work, because I have been harnessing the talent. The others were not getting to harness in a democratic way, the majority. I am able to get the young talent, the old talent together, and that's the same thing I have in Trinidad, So, yes, it's a challenge. There was some of it rising here, but I really feel I'm Guyanese, so I don't even hear it.
You don't hear it anymore.
When we had the screening for models, there were 330 people nationally. I think in the other youth programs, I remember once we were working with the Ministry of Education, they say in our national drives we have 40 and 50 people. You all have hundreds of young people, men who change their way of dressing, who get more responsible, of a sense of belonging, who are coming to this art-filled space, and like-minded people, and sharing and participating, and they help me with the set, and they get involved in event making at a different level, and start feeling purposeful in it, and not just like pawns in the process, because that's how I teach it. I teach it as a love thing. We hug, we talk, we cry, you share, you call me, I sit on the floor with you, I talk to you. It is not about me talking down condescendingly. I am incorporating you. I want to hear what you feel about it and probably apply some of it, and I will reference it when we're doing it. This is what John said. John thought we should have done this because this is experience. Let's borrow some of that and do it, and that's how it is. So it's evolutionary, and we all be coming together and celebrating the usness. So that's how I deal with the xenophobia moving around, because I sometimes don't even acknowledge it. Like National Cultural Foundation called me to train models in Barbados just about 2 months ago, and I went there, and there's a huge event, and there were other things going on, but all the models came to my stuff. There were like 100 and something models. I know the Caribbean Next Top Model brand has also facilitated me access in to some degree, but then people realize I am not, like when Nkechi wrote to me, Nkechi from here, she wrote and she said, thanks for giving us Guyanese models a chance. I didn't even see it so. It's just Caribbean's Next Top Model, and I have to have representations from the places where I work. So now we have had two consistent. We had Anasha in season 2, and then Keshi is going to be in season 3.
Fabulous, and I think your personality has so much to do with it. Viewers, unfortunately, I have to begin to wrap up my conversation with Richard, but before I do that, just to take the conversation back to where we began and the importance of Sunday's activity, just talk about it again, and of course, for those who missed that part of the conversation.
Right, so the Sonia Noel Foundation for the Creative Arts, in association with Guyana Fashion Week, will be hosting Style Mission at the Pegasus on Sunday 11th at 4 p.m. The show is $2,500 or $4,000 VIP. You can get tickets at the Pegasus or at Nigel's Supermarket. We're also raising funds. In fact, that's what the purpose is, a fundraiser. One of the ways of raising funds is that we're going to auction something from King's Jewelry World, who's a gracious corporate social responsibility provider. We also have Sonia selling something, putting up for auction a dress that was worn to the Grammys by the wife of a St. Lucian legend in music, which is Boo Hinkson, and his wife. He was a judge at the Grammys this year, so a lot of those things need to be acknowledged. So his wife accompanied him, and she wore Sonny Noel dress, to the Stapleton Center in Los Angeles, and that's a big deal. So we're going to auction that, and then Davina Duputron, who we kind of facilitate her art. Last time she presented something to the president, and it was really special for her. And now she's going to have pieces of art auctioned at the event. So you see how you change event making in a way, and it's all novel and it's all Caribbean based. It's us doing our way of doing it, bringing the other arts to bear. It's a mission of style. So the The beneficiaries are Corinne Gibson, who has been a makeup and lead hairstylist at Guyana Fashion Week for years, and Mr. Rodney, famous actor, comedian, and his daughter has been part of the process, which has been wonderful, you know. So I think that's great. The Sonny Noel Foundation, Creative Arts, Guyana Fashion Week, designers, over 50 models, 20 designers, with some performing talent spliced in between. A wonderful evening at the Pegasus this Sunday.
Well, I know that those who are going cannot wait to enjoy it, and I encourage you to do so. Unfortunately, I don't have time to take a break and come back today, so I'm going to wrap up today's program now. Richard, thank you so very much. Of course, Richard is just going to sit on until we come off. It has been really such a pleasure, and hopefully we can see more of Richard coming on Facing the Nation, because like I said, he's Guyanese now. He's full Guyanese. We have adopted him. The documents have been signed and everything. So we in a sense, kind of own him. Just a few housekeeping matters. Remember, we are in Indigenous Heritage Month. Of course, some of you still calling it Amerindian Heritage Month, but that is okay. It's the month of September, so remember to celebrate. This is something for us to celebrate with our First Peoples, our Amerindian brothers and sisters. We should not only celebrate them in September, but throughout, because every Guyanese, every human being is valuable to our country in terms of nation building and development. Also, we are in the month of education. I don't really see education as something we celebrate, but something we observe and try to strengthen. So again, hopefully before the end of this month, I can have someone from both ministries, the Indigenous Affairs Ministry and the Education Ministry, to talk about the state and both sectors and so on. I'd like to take this opportunity to once again thank that team that we had from the Ministry of Social Protection, the Director of Social Services, Wentworth Tanner, the Chief Probation Officer, Forbes Monroe, Assistant Chief Probation Officer, Austin Crawford, and of course the person in charge of pension, public assistance, and public disability, Mr. Ricardo Banwari. Unfortunately, this is where I have to leave you this week. Coming up next week on Facing the Nation, we know that UG is buzzing now in terms of those elections, so I hope to have one of the persons running for president of UGSS next week, and we'll also get the person in charge of Grassmatics. Those of you who can remember Grassmatics from when we were children, the person who has created that, the creator, will be on Facing the Nation also next week. Unfortunately, this is where I have to leave you. Also, once again, thank you very much to the Sonia Noel Foundation, Richard Young, and that entire team that is working to ensure that Sunday's program is successful. I am Malika Ramsey. Do be good Guyanese citizens. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other, as I always urge you. Until next time, bye-bye.